Let's prevent your next hiring dumpster fire.
Today, we're going to talk about 10 interview red flags that every nurse leader should look out for.
You're hired!
Number 1, they focus on all the things their previous employer did wrong. That's weird.
Yeah, why do they do that?
Do they have any ability to introspect?
Probably not. I'm thinking that maybe they actually don't know how to take accountability and they like to blame other people on why they did everything wrong.
Yeah, I'm going to call that red flag number 1 for sure.
For sure. Red flag number 2 is when you ask for examples, they give all of the examples about patient care and they never talk about things that were going on with their peers or their team. Why would they be doing that, Teresa?
I'm going to go with they don't sound actually like a real team player.
Yeah, I think so. If they only ever talk about patient care, then they may only be thinking about somebody who comes in and does the task and gets the job done, but they're never thinking about how to make things better for the unit. And they may not even care what their peers are doing if they're getting their butts kicked on the unit or not.
Right. And then my concern is, can they even look at the bigger picture?
Yes, 100%. And that's kind of a problem when you're interviewing somebody. This isn't like a complete red flag because you could have a couple of these people on your unit. But if all of the people on your unit are like this, you're going to have a very hard time getting engagement and getting your team to help you solve problems.
Interview red flag number 3. When you ask about conflict, they only ever bring up examples related to the nurse-patient conflict, never like peer-to-peer or other types of conflict. Like they don't know really maybe what.
Well, in my experience as a manager, I have never had an employee who only had issues with patient care. Like if they got patient complaints, they almost always also got complaints with their peers. And the things that are going to rise to the top that you're going to have to put out, the type of dumpster fires that you're going to end up putting out with that employee are going to be their peer-to-peer relationships. So if they're not talking about how they manage conflict with their peers or their supervisor, then that tells me you're not telling me that for a reason.
Or they could be that background pot stirrer that like they never tell anybody, nobody ever tells, or it's too subtle to really notice, but they kind of bring down the culture.
100%. But what I'm usually thinking if I hear somebody only giving examples about patient care conflict or when they have like a grumpy patient is that either you avoid confrontation with your peers and you won't go to the source to talk to them about it, or you have issues with it and you don't want me to know about it. And that to me is a big red flag because I want to make sure that my people on my team both are willing to go to the source to try to solve the problem themselves first, and that they can do it diplomatically and respectfully.
Kind of important.
Interview red flag number 4. If you're asking the prospective employee for examples of when they have done leadership activities, you're looking for unofficial leadership traits. And this might be somebody you're interviewing potentially that you think you may want to bring into like an assistant nurse manager position or a nurse manager position. And if you're asking them about experiences that they have in leadership and they only say things like, well, I told my manager and that's it. That's where the example ends.
Yeah. Like they have suggestions and ideas, but they don't have any like level of follow through. Is that like what you're getting at?
Yeah. Why do you think that they do that?
Maybe they just they lack initiative. Like they might do their job okay, and so they might be a decent hire, but they're not someone that you can really do a lot with. They might be, again, one of those people that are not your high engagers, they're mid engagers or your low engagers.
Yes,
you're ones driving the team behind them.
So again, I think this could be the type of employee that you only want to have a couple of these employees who just show up to work, clock in, clock out. But you might be looking for somebody who wants to actually better the team and work on process improvements. So when I'm asking that question, I'm looking for, what do you do to elevate the rest of your team? Do you find problems and come up with solutions and then go to your manager and say, hey, I see this problem, but I also think I have an idea on how we can fix it. So the manager can encourage them to be participating in that and we can get other people involved. That's what I want to have in a manager, because that ultimately means that my job is a little bit easier.
Interview red flag number 5. When they talk a lot about how great they are and how wonderful they are, they're really an honest person and they're really this and that and how wonderful they are. And it comes off almost like they're trying to sell themselves. They're a
Yeah.
salesman.
And especially if they don't actually have any evidence to support that. So if they're just saying, like, everybody likes me and I get along with everyone and my manager says I'm great, but they can't tell you real life examples that actually give you something substantial to understand, oh, I understand why your manager thought you were great. I'm looking for examples with tangible things that you have actually done, not just telling me you're great, because I need you to prove that later on. So I'm not going to trust you until I see it. And so right now, all you can really do is give an example.
Yeah, I'm going to go with trust but verify, right?
Yes.
It's always trust but verify.
Yes. Interview red flag number 6. The person gives you examples from a time that they worked that was not their most recent job. And it might be like 10 years ago. That's weird. Why would you be doing that?
Yeah, like why do you not have any recent examples? Have you just been a bum at your current job and you actually are not going to be useful at all? Or do you not even really care about what you're applying for?
Yeah.
That's odd.
So that's a good reason to have the resume in front of you so you can see which job they're talking about. Because if they're talking about a job that they did 5 to 10 years ago, to me, I'm wondering what happened in the last 5 years and why aren't you drawing from those experiences? Most nurses get better with time, not worse. So it's weird that you wouldn't be talking about that.
And also, like, it's fine if you have one example from 5 years ago. Maybe you've done different types of nursing and you're kind of trying to pull from your various experiences to show like how well rounded you are. That's different than all of their examples or consistently the examples are from several years ago. That's always concerning.
Yes, 100%.
Interview red flag number 7. They don't make eye contact with everybody and they only talk to one or two people in the room, or they avoid like the males or they avoid the females. You're not sure who they're talking to, but they blatantly ignore one or two people in the room.
I've legit been in interviews where I'm the hiring manager and they never look at my face. And I'm like, hello, I'm the person hiring you. You should probably talk to me, not the other people. I mean, you can talk to them, but I'm the primary focus. You're trying to sell me. So why aren't you looking at me?
Yes. And again, this is one of those things where if it's a general across the board, they're not making eye contact with anybody,
Yeah.
that's
could
fine.
be you're uncomfortable and you're anxious. But
Correct.
yeah, if they're only doing it and they're doing it to specific people in the panel, that seems like maybe they have some judgmental issues or some biases, or you just are not good at understanding who the people are. And maybe you just don't get that. But I always introduce myself and I say, I'm the person hiring for this position. Interview red flag number 8. When you ask a person to talk about something that they did to improve their unit, and they only talk about a specific person or they only talk about something that happened one time. That to me is telling me that that person is maybe not a very mature nurse yet. And maybe they're at a lower level, like maybe like a novice to beginner level of nurse.
Yeah. Like, do they actually even have the ability to look at like as they're affecting change or trying to implement change? Are they considering the whole system?
Right. So can they look at the impact? Like we talk about high reliability organizations in healthcare a lot, and that has to do with not pinpointing and blaming a single person. And so I'm looking for, do you have the ability to dig deep and understand like the root cause analysis of something and then go back and affect the change on that? Like, for example, I've seen somebody say things like, I always do rounding with my patients. I do my check-ins. I make sure that my patients have their call light, and our fall rate's really low. Well, that example only exists if you're there. So if you're there, you might be making an impact day to day, but that doesn't do anything for the unit, and that doesn't do anything to prevent falls for the whole team and for all patients. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so. Kind of concerning.
Yeah.
Interview red flag number 9. So this is an interview question that you might be asking someone that's going for like a coordinator position, a little bit higher level than just your average bedside nurse. But even if that is your average bedside nurse, one thing that you want to look for is what I've noticed, and what I identified in this question was control. And when they implemented a new change or a new process, the process relied on them at some point. And without them, the process breaks.
Mm.
That is someone that you want to be leery of because they are going to be controlling and
Oh,
they
yeah.
need that constant reassurance. And that's not going to go well on a unit with mixed people or in a team of coordinators or a team of um, other nurses that are doing different things or in a management team. So just always consider that subtle cue of them being controlling.
Yeah, and I think what's interesting is what I have seen, people will tell me that are in the front lines, I want to go into a leadership position, and they'll come to me and ask me for advice. And these are the people that are always putting their hand up that they want to volunteer and get on a project, but they're not good at helping other people get involved. So what I'm actually looking for as a sign that you're a true leader is that you help embrace and elevate the people around you. And I think that's similar in a coordinator position because you're trying to get the whole team to come up to the table. You're not just trying to shine. You're not the only shining star. In
Right.
fact, if you're being a good leader, you're actually going to be a little bit more in the background.
Well, and you never want to create systems that break if one person isn't there. That's always going to be a failure
Mhm.
in anything, especially when it comes to healthcare, because we should be allowed to take days off. We should be allowed to not have to have a system rely on us solely. So that's where the big concern comes in. And remember, micromanagement becomes babysitting.
Oh, yeah. You should watch our video on that if you are wondering why that is. Interview red flag number 10. This might be one of the most important red flags we're going to talk about. So, after the interview's over, and maybe this isn't actually an interview question, but this is part of the interview process. You're calling your references. The person gave you references. Hopefully, they gave you a reference to a supervisor or somebody who actually worked with the person. And if you ask them, if you had the opportunity, would you hire this person back? And they pause or say, or I mean, they might just tell you no, but even if they just pause and
Or they go, yes.
yes, if there's any hesitation, there's probably that usually means that the answer is actually no, they wouldn't hire that person back. And they're just trying to figure out a diplomatic way to tell you that.
Correct. So remember, interview red flags, all 10 of them, keep an eye out so you don't hire your next dumpster fire.
Yes, because then you're going to be having to get out your hose and your extinguisher, and you're never going to get anything you want done because you're just going to be trying to babysit and micromanage.